All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to yet another electrifying, invigorating, pulsating episode of the Geek Garage podcast. I'm your host, David Dassall. With me, as usual, joined remote all the way in Tennessee, is Ted White. How are you doing, good sir?
Um, I'm a little concerned with the way you described the episode as pulsating, but I hope to recover.
I was curious if you were also or instead of wondering why I didn't speak the city that you currently live in, but I decided at the last second as it was coming out to respect your privacy. So I mean, I I
You
don't
did name the
know.
state though, so I mean that's pretty big invasion in and of itself.
Well, my bad. Let's just backtrack and start the whole thing over again. Nah, I'm not doing that. Anyways, so Ted, I'm glad you're doing all right. I suppose. But yeah, we are here to talk about a whole lot of nothing. Basically, we this week we
Such is the show.
right. Yes, it's really not a huge departure from the norm. It's just this episode is gonna be a little less structured than it typically is, which, like we just said,
Not at all, basically.
yeah,
No, we're gonna
yeah,
go so into the unstructured it will become structured, regimented.
yeah. We might just come full circle on this bitch. But no, we conducted a couple of Facebook polls within the last couple days, maybe the last week or so, and we are going to talk about the results and the polls themselves and the results and the conversation back and forth. It gained a lot of traction and we had a lot of interaction, and it got me really excited for just that in general. But I was talking to Ted about it, and we decided, like, fuck it, like, let's make an episode out of it, because seems like whenever we talk about the polls, we could kind of go on and on and on and make kind of a shorter than usual episode. So that's basically what we're going to do. But before we get to that, we got to get through our pre roll items like usual. Um, so if you are new to the podcast, or you have not listened in a while, these first couple of things will be for you basically. We just started a new segment on the website, a new blog post segment called Comic Corner, where Ted and I basically write up reviews on some of our favorite comic book runs, some of our favorite comic book issues or volumes, and we just send them out into the ether for everyone or no one, but usually no one to read. And but they're there to let you know that we have opinions on comic books. So yes, the first two issues of Comic Book or Comic Corner are now out. I did my first one on um, Batman Nightfall, the famous Bane origin story. And Ted, remind me what yours was.
I did mine on the Punisher for Max Comics by Garth Ennis. By Garth Ennis, excuse me.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. So those are the two that we have right now. You can check out geekgaragepodcast.com if you'd like to read those. Um, Second, we have our Facebook group page. If you would just get on Facebook and type in Geek Garage Podcast fans and listeners, that is basically the central hub for all of the host, listener, fan communication, I guess, and back and forth conversation. We do have our regular Geek Garage Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, where we post about new episodes and new blog content and all that good stuff. But the Facebook group page is usually where all the cool stuff, like the polls, like we're talking about today, that's where that goes down. And you can get on there and uh, talk about your favorites, shit that we like to talk about and conduct polls around. So if you'd like to join, just like I said, type in Geek Garage Podcast fans and listeners and look us up, click the join button, and you'll be good to go. um Patreon, we I am delighted to announce that we have a brand new Patreon sub. Josh Whitty, a good friend from a long ass time ago. We were talking today. Quick quick side note. I've been into making like vinyl stickers here lately, and I made one that I knew was going to spark outrage. It was in the Game of Thrones font, and it said season or the last season was just okay or something to that effect. And a lot of people had problems with that, which I figured there would be because not too many people fucking liked the last season of Game of Thrones, and I totally get that. But Josh Whitty, I'm assuming, was one of the people that didn't like the last season, and he was like, I tend to disagree, sir. And I was like, well, if you'd like to um, buy a custom made sticker, I will gladly make you one that says otherwise. Like the last season of Game of Thrones fucking sucked. And one thing led to another, and he became one of our Patreon subs. So, yeah. Thank you, Josh, for subscribing. We appreciate it. And thank you to our current subs, Zach Binks and Reagan Biggs. You guys are amazing. You have been subs for a couple months now. Zach was our first sub from way back earlier this year, and yeah, you guys are amazing. Thank you for subscribing. For those of you who have not subscribed yet and are potentially interested, we do have two tiers. We have a $2 a month tier, which is the Uber Nerd tier, and we have the $5 a month tier, which is the Super Geek. And with the $2 a month tier, you get a shout out on the next episode, and you get your name on our Wall of Donors page on the website. You get a official supporter button sticker set and a personalized thank you card for being a supporter. And you also get to participate in monthly online hangouts and AMAs. With the $5 a month tier, you get everything that comes in the Uber Nerd tier, plus you get to pick a movie we do for a watch along episode. We have yet to do one of these because it's been like pulling teeth getting movie suggestions from one of our listeners, but Zach, he has gave us one. And Ted, do we want to throw out the title of what we're gonna do?
No.
Okay, we're keeping it a secret. We're gonna spring that on you on a later date. Don't know what that date is, but it is coming soon because yeah, we talked about it within the last couple of days. Ted and I both watched this movie for the first time, the both of us, and we definitely have plans to do an episode on it very, very soon. So yeah. If you are interested in being a Patreon sub, then you can head to patreon.com and just search for the Geek Garage podcast. We also have a Patreon link on our website. We'll also put one in the episode description down below in whatever podcast app you are listening to. So you can look out for that. If you are looking to support the show in a fashion that doesn't require your hard-earned monies, you can always leave us a rating and review. I believe Apple Podcasts may be one of the very few platforms where you can actually leave ratings and reviews, but you could definitely do it there. If there's another one out there, I'd love to hear about it, where you can leave ratings and reviews. So hit me up with that valuable information. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for our bullet points before we get into the meaty body of our discussion. Ted, shall we roll that music?
Yes, let's do that thing.
Okay. Play that funky music, white boy.
So, David, before we get started rolling through the polls and talking about different albums, spoiler alert, quick shout out and thanks to everyone that did participate in the polls that I just mentioned. Obviously, that's the purpose of a poll, is for people to vote in it. So if none of you had voted in it, we wouldn't be doing this. So really, in a way, you have no one to blame but yourselves.
Indeed.
Also, a huge thanks to everyone that reached out individually and personally to tell us how excited they were that we were going to be doing our informal paranormal series. Um, that was just kind of a spur of the moment idea based off of a Facebook poll. You'll notice a running theme there.
Hmm.
And it apparently a lot of people are super into that. So
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how many people reached out, but I know David said that several people reached out with messages that were like, "Oh, that's so awesome that you all are doing that, and I'm so excited for it," and various other lies. So thank you for that. That means a lot. Really, truly. All jokes aside, it does mean a lot that people are interested in what we're doing because a lot of times we're not even interested in it. So it's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, it's there's many layers to
Yes,
this.
like an
It's
onion. It's very
yeah,
onion.
anyone with a hobby or side gig or side hustle that they're trying to make a little bit of a scrap with it, you know exactly where we're coming from.
Indeed.
Like we're not trying to put money in our pockets. We're just trying
Well,
to pour money
well,
back into the show. Um, you
it can
know,
be
to
both. It can be both. But that's neither here nor there. So again, thank you to everyone for participating in the polls and for the people that reached out to say they were excited about our upcoming episodes. As always, if you have ideas of things that you want us to talk about, whether it's paranormal things for those upcoming episodes or just in general, give us a shout because we're always down to talk about what the 12 of you apparently want to hear. So we're moving up in the world, and that is dope. So thank you again for the last time ever.
yes,
Moving on to our first Facebook poll. It was about music, that funky music, as David
yes.
so eloquently put earlier. The question was, what is one of your favorite albums? One that slaps just as hard as it did the very first time you heard it. If you've ever been slapped by an album, there are people that will talk to you about that. We are not those people, but if you've ever been, abused by a CD, there's help.
So I use the term slap because I think that's what the kids are saying nowadays. Like I see that a lot.
David, you literally
Like,
have children. You should know what the children are saying these days.
okay, well, my children are not like Gen Z children. Like my children are I don't think my children have like a name yet. They're just idiot and shit
Doomed.
for
That is
brains.
what this generation of your children are a part of, is apparently.
Ooh, what did you
I
say?
said doomed is what.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that is highly accurate.
Based
Yeah.
on the way the world is going, at least statistically, they're fucked.
Right. No, that's yes, that is
There's
accurate.
nothing funny
Well,
about that.
oh, we laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah.
Bip, 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 bip.
Uh, yes, I believe slaps is one of the more popular nomenclature
Yeah.
of
It's yeah, it seemed like an appropriate word to use in this particular context. So and it worked. People got or understood what I was trying to say, and man, did people fucking bring it. Um
yes. Uh, Music is one of those things that everybody has an opinion on.
mhm.
I've met like two people ever that said they didn't like music, and they were lying. Everyone likes music. It is a part of the human condition, right?
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, looking at this list, you are not kidding. A lot of people had a lot of opinions about it. Some of them better than others. Although, as you have told me numerous times, it's not our place to judge. So I will keep my judging opinions to myself.
Yeah, I mean we definitely the point of this was not to make fun of or alienate any potentially alienate any
Yes, it
listeners
has
that
come to my attention that this is a safe place, and we are not allowed to do that. So,
mhm,
world
yes.
is changing. World is changing.
All right, Ted. So we're gonna go ahead and get this started. When I first posted the poll, I went ahead and started out the thread with two of my favorite albums that I think slap just as hard. And both of those albums are from the band A Day to Remember, and it is Homesick and Common Courtesy. And I mean those in no particular order because I literally, like, I wanted to pick like one and two or just one of them, but I couldn't figure out which one would beat out the other because I love them both equally. So yeah, those are mine. Um, I know that you didn't really you didn't technically participate in this poll, but you do have some
True.
albums. So we'll just and I jotted down as you were making your list. I jotted down more albums for myself. So you just want to do those at the very end?
Yeah, I think before you and I ramble on about the things that no one cares about that we like, we should go through and list the things that the people that do listen to the show care about because that's what they told us they care about. So,
Yes, I think that's a good idea. We'll get to the important people first, and then for anyone that still happens to be listening afterwards, um,
congratulations, you made a poor choice.
right, we can congratulate them with a virtual high five.
Yes.
Uh, all right, first up we got John Aker. He suggested three different albums. He listed Rage Against the Machine's first album, which I believe is their self-titled. Isn't that correct, Ted?
Yes, that was their self-titled record.
Cool. He mentioned Wisconsin Death Trip by Static X and Siamese Dream by Smashing Pumpkins, which is I will personally attest that is a great album.
That is a very good album. You're correct.
Yes. I never was like a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. I definitely went through a Pumpkins phase, like in late in high school. Like I just blasted the fucking the double album, the Melancholy and the
Yeah,
Infinite
Melancholy.
Sadness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that on repeat like a motherfucker, and man, like I think that officially kickstarted my emo phase. I think that's what did it.
I could see
Um,
that.
yeah, and then I got into more contemporary emo stuff, but that's neither here nor there. But still relatively topical. Uh, Hunter Van Cleve, he listed AFI's "Sing the Sorrow" and My Chemical Romance's "Three Cheers for Sweet Revenge," which I will attest are both fantastic albums. I'll just leave it at that. They're great.
Yeah, I remember Sing the Sorrow was like a movement almost.
Right.
There were so many people like I think they had their lives changed by that album. And I don't say that in a mocking way,
Hmm.
completely at least. But
No, it's AFI is one of
jokes
those
and jokes and
bands.
jokes. But no, like, seriously, that album was huge when it came out. Or
Yeah.
maybe there's a little bit of like self-selection bias with that because like I hung out with all the like punks and shit who were
Hmm.
super into that. But that was a big album. Um, Matthew Snyder picked Undertow by Tool. I've never been a
Yeah.
big Tool guy, but the people that are into Tool are like really into Tool. Um,
Yes, like they can quote you the Fibonacci sequence. I'm not sure how that's done, but they can do so.
I mean, that's not. It's not even real.
Yeah, but you're a math person.
Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, Tool was never really my thing, but definitely very talented. Definitely a very talented group, and I get why people are super into them because of that.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a very polarizing band. You either
You're kind of into it or you're not. There's no like.
yeah, there's no halfway.
Yeah. Like people that are into Tool, like I said, are super into Tool, and people that aren't are just like, no, thank you. Like I said,
Like I'll stick to my typical like 2.5 to 3.5 minute songs instead of 8.5 minutes
I
on the
would like to
short
listen
side.
to music that doesn't require a background in mathematics. Thank you. No.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Laura M, and I'm not saying your last name because I can't pronounce it and I don't want to offend you, picked The Used by, wait for it, you're not going to believe this, The Used.
Yes. I think would that be the self-titled
I believe so.
album? Yeah, I
I
think.
remember that record. I had a friend that was super into it. Again, not really my thing, but a couple of good tracks on there.
Was that their first album? I can never remember if that was um I'm actually looking it up right now.
Yeah,
I'm
me
not
too.
like yes, it was their first album.
I think that was probably their first like full length.
Right. So this also just a quick upfront like hi Laura if you happen to be listening she is a old friend from high school. I think I've seen her once since high school. But yeah, she no the this album I bought it and then like I listened to it once all the way through and I was like I don't think I'm ready for this. Like, it's just too weird for me at the time. Like, I was listening to fucking Simple Plan at that point in time. And
You don't have
so,
to admit things like that, David. You don't.
hey, like, I no shame. I don't give a shit who knows and who cares. But yeah, like so I kind of transitioned to this and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm ready. And so like I started listening to other like music along the same lines that kind of eased me into the alternative and hardcore genre. A little bit of metal, and then I kind of revisited this album, and it was definitely more palatable at that point in time. But yeah, solid choice, Laura. All right, next up we got Brandon Holloway, and he listed the soundtrack to Mary Poppins. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. I just thought of that now. I didn't even have it written down in my notes. I'm so fucking proud of myself. And Ted is probably over there, like smacking his head, like, "Why am I friends with this fucker?"
You're half right.
Um, I'm concerned about which part. Anyway, don't tell me. Uh, I don't think I want to know. But I I don't think I've ever listened explicitly to the soundtrack to Mary Poppins. However, I did watch this movie a lot when I was younger. So good choice, Brandon.
Yeah, that's a really interesting choice. A lot of soundtracks. I mean, I guess Mary Poppins is kind of a musical. Not like it's not what I think of when I think of a musical, but I guess it's
mhm.
like pretty close to one, really.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm kind of surprised, but I get it. I think. Like,
No, I mean like the music for Mary Poppins is Disney, right? It's got
sure,
to be Disney. Yeah.
sure.
Um yeah, the music for those movies at that time period was really good for Disney movies, and especially like this kind of like mashup of like real life and animation. It was very interesting. That's kind of a different conversation. That's getting into the film aspect of things, and we're talking about Muzak. Um, but yeah, next up we got Terry Stepp. He suggested "Make Yourself" by Incubus, which is also a fantastic album. I don't know if it is my favorite by Incubus personally. I think Morning View might be my favorite, but "Make Yourself" is a solid album. Ted, did you ever get into Incubus by chance?
Kind of. They're like what I would call a greatest hits band for me, where like
Sure.
they have some songs I really like, but I wasn't ever really into their albums, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Um, I do remember "Make Yourself" was a pretty big deal, and "Drive" was like a fucking massive hit from what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah, Drive is a weird one for me because it got played like I think Drive is probably the only one of the very few at least Incubus tracks that are singles that ever made it to like the top 40 radio stations. Everything else was played on like alternative rock and rock stations. And because Top 40 got their fucking filthy hands on it, they played that shit till no end. So I fucking hated the song Drive for the longest time. And then I started playing guitar, and someone suggested I learn that. It was probably some hot girl that I was trying to impress. And then I learned it, and I had this newfound appreciation for it. Cool story, right? Fuck you, David. Um,
Okay, that took
took a
several
turn.
turns I wasn't expecting.
Yeah. Anyways, back to you, Ted.
uh, Longtime friend of the show, Jeff Breedwell, didn't
Yeah.
understand the core concept of one or two, apparently.
I don't think I explicitly stated uh oh yeah, okay.
What's one of your favorite albums? So I think you did
I'm
explicitly
sorry.
state it, but
God, it's been a fucking day. I'm sorry.
there's
Yeah.
really no. You know what? I'm gonna. Okay. Whew.
You're gonna have to let a lot slide, Ted, and listeners.
I
I'm
already let a lot
sorry.
slide, David. You're asking.
Anyways,
So Jeff, we're gonna read all of these, but just in the future, you know,
read
reading
the fucking
comprehension.
directions.
It's gonna help you. It's gonna help you in the long run. The long run. The long run? Okay. The first one he put was Newfound Glory self-titled record, which, um, having known Jeff for almost 30 years, I can attest that is very true. That is like the record that changed his life.
Hmm.
Uh, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, which is a pun. That's a double entendre, David. I don't know if you got that. From Blink 182. Becoming Who We Are from King's Kaleidoscope. I have no idea what that is and shall not comment. The Hamilton soundtrack, which apparently that's this huge thing. I don't know. See, that's what I think of when I
It's
think of a musical is stuff like Hamilton.
yeah, because that by definition, that's what it is.
Yes, there you go, David. Now you're getting it.
But yeah, I've listened to the soundtrack a couple times, and I have not yet watched Hamilton the on Disney Plus, but I've heard good things, great things actually, and um, looking forward to that. Um,
Yeah,
anyways,
I,
go
I
ahead.
don't I don't know that I've ever cared about anything less than I care about Hamilton, but I do know that it's a huge like cultural phenomenon. So I'm not surprised to see it on someone's list.
Yeah.
Two Lefts Don't Make a Right by Reliant K. Aren't they from here, David?
You know what? That sounds like I something I've heard before. Maybe like they're either from here or they're transplants. Like
They're
maybe
in
from
fact from
not.
Canton, Ohio. So we're just gonna delete that out of the podcast.
No, we're gonna keep it in.
Rise or Die Trying by 4 Year Strong, which also was a huge record for, I guess, the start of that whole quote unquote easy core genre. Just
Yeah,
still a stupid name. And Still Jesus by, I'm assuming this is pronounced
Sh-
Shai Lin. Shai
Shylin.
Linne?
That's what I was gonna say. Um,
Shailene, maybe?
I,
I'm not sure how you say it, but um,
I don't know what that
I'm
is.
going to assume
It's
this is,
Christian rock.
well, Christian something, yes, is what I was going to assume, based
Yes.
on the name. So, uh,
Or maybe it's mariachi and it's still Jesus.
still Jesus. That's actually what it is. He slid one past us, damn it. Uh, but yeah,
That would
that's,
be
again, reading comprehension one. That was more than one, but we're gonna let it slide because Jeff's an old friend.
yes. Yeah, we'll let it slide just this once.
Thus ends Jeff's list. Finally, moving right along to Dwayne, who listed all albums by Coheed and Cambria. Look, people, one is literally it's in. You know what? I can't even say anything to them, David, because you listed two also. So it
Well,
was doomed from the start. I will say, Coheed and Cambria, while not my favorite thing in the world, those are some talented motherfuckers.
yeah, they are. They go and write comic books and graphic novels, and then write music based off of said comic books and graphic novels.
Which that's pretty dope.
Yeah, I can't fucking do any of that. Like I can barely play other people's music. Like I can barely play like Neil Young. And the Beatles. You hand me that and I'm like I'm good. But yeah.
Well,
I
David,
can
there's always Wonderwall.
Anyways, here's Wonderwall. No, I can actually play one part, the intro to one Coheed and Cambria song. I don't know the name of it, because their track titles are weird
No
and
one has time
different.
to read all of that. It's just track 1 and 2, Coheed. All right, that's what it is.
Yeah,
Some of us have shit
that's
to
what it
do.
is.
Okay.
All right. Next up, we got Stephanie Lester, who listed "Who Will Survive and What Will Be Left of Them" by Murder by Death. Sorry, that was just a weird way to phrase that. I guess it would have been better to say Murder by Death's album "Who Will Survive and What Will Be Left of Them." Um,
Yeah.
Congratulations, David. You fucked all that up.
Well, that was going to happen pretty much regardless.
I mean, it's happened like 17 times since we pushed record, so go me.
Low estimate.
No, I have no idea what any. This is a classic case of like, oh, I know some of these words.
Yeah. So, "Who Will Survive and What Will Be Left of Them" is the tagline from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not familiar with his album necessarily, although I will say "Murder by Death" is also a movie reference. So I'm guessing this is a group made up of cinephiles. Um,
It's probably safe to say.
I will say that Murder by Death is also a fucking hard ass thing to name a band.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know.
Yes.
I looked them up before the show, and they're like indie rock, which not my thing, but I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm a tentative fan just based on their clear love of cinema.
Right. Yeah, you might be able to, or might be willing to give them a listen or two, just for curiosity's sake,
Yes.
because of the band title. Anyways, uh, so next up we have Tiffany Elder, a friend of the podcast,
Yeah.
has been
Former guest
on.
of the show.
Yes, she was on for the Star Trek episode, and I think that was it. Her and her husband Mac, who has been on at least a few times. They were on both on for the Star Trek episode, and then a couple times before that. But anyways, she listed a couple different albums, and we are going to let it slide for her as well because all four of these albums are pretty fucking dope. Um, First one is Newfound Glory's Sticks and Stones album. Second is Cartel's Chroma album. Third is Thrice Artist in the Ambulance. And Dr. Dre's The Chronic.
Yes. The Chronic
Um,
is that's a good one.
yeah, it's classic music right there.
One of the first records I ever bought, in fact.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that album is probably a first for a lot of people,
Yeah.
like especially our age, because I remember that album coming out and back when like CD stores were still a thing, like Tower Records and fucking what were the record stores that were like chains? Like there was wasn't Virgin Music one?
Yeah,
Um,
Virgin, Tower Records, Media Play. Well, they were more of like
that's
they had
true.
a little bit of everything.
Yeah, Media Play was the shit.
Yeah, I like Media Play a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Back in the
no, funny side story. This is totally unsolicited, but I think it's funny, so I'm going to tell it anyways. I was working as a call center person for um, the one of the home shopping network places for a very very brief point in time, and I didn't even make it out of the training, and they cut us loose one day on the phones to take actual phone calls, and I didn't pick up this call, but someone else in our training class did. When we all got back to the big group digital session, our trainer was like, "So I have this funny story to tell you. One of our trainees um, picked up a call from a sweet old lady that called to try and return a pair of Beats by Dre because they were, quotes, not prescribed by a real doctor."
Well,
Yeah, and we all had a fantastically long, good laugh at that because it was all fucking hilarious to the people that knew the situation. But yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. So yeah,
old ladies, man.
yeah,
They be
old
wild.
ladies. It's right.
But yes, that is a pretty solid list from Ye Old Elder. Next, we have Steve-O, not the Steve-O, but a Steve-O. Perhaps he's
Mhm.
the Steve-O. I don't actually know David's friends like that, so he might be
It's
totally out
not.
of me. But anyway, Steve-O had 2 picks, which I'm noticing a theme with nobody understanding what fucking one is, but that's all right. We're past that. His picks were Linkin Park's Hybrid Theory, which was a big, big big album. I remember that one vividly.
Hmm. Yeah.
And Story of the Year's Page Avenue, which was also a pretty popular record, as I recall.
Yep.
One of my really good friends, Story of the Year is like his favorite band. He's the only person in the world, I think, whose favorite band is Story of the Year, but he's riding or dying by him. So
Yeah, quite possibly. I don't think Story of the Year has been a band or a thing for quite some time now, but they're very short tenure, unless they're still going strong, and I'm just out of the loop because I haven't listened to them in so long. But yeah, these two albums they both came out around the same time frame within the same, like, I think 2-3 years or so. And I mean, Hybrid Theory especially was just a fucking powerhouse of an album. Like, everyone was listening to this. Like, Uh,
I'm pretty sure that album went like diamond or something
did it
ridiculous.
really?
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. It's just because like, I mean, it's so fitting for the time that it came out. What was it? Is got had to be like 2001, right? Right, Ted? Right
Um,
around there, 2000, 2001, that it came out. Um,
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up.
do 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 do.
October 24th, 2000.
Hmm. I was close. I was close. Um, but yeah, this record was fucking nuts. I actually saw Linkin Park. Well, I saw them
Jesus Christ.
live. What?
Dude, this record has sold 27 million copies.
Jesus.
Fuck me.
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you haven't listened to Hybrid Theory,
That's like double diamond. It is
um,
it's the best-selling debut album of the 21st century.
wow,
Yeah.
that's
I'm sorry, I just completely cut you off with that. So start back wherever you were on it too, and my bad.
no. I mean, I was making no cohesive points whatsoever.
May God have mercy on our souls.
Right. During no point in your incoherent rambling did you come close to making anything resembling a point. May God have mercy on your soul. No. So yeah, I really don't have much to say about this album because I think everything that could be said has already been said. I'll just say like rest in peace, Chester Bennington. Like we miss you, and yeah, that one stung quite a bit. Um, Pretty sad after that one, but yeah, life goes on.
Next, we have Drea, who has three very interesting and off-the-wall picks.
Hmm.
I'm not I'm not mad at any of these. I'm a little surprised by them, but that's not a bad thing. First is Primus, Sailing the Seas of Cheese. Jane's Addiction, Nothing's Shocking, and Annie DeFranco, Living in Clip. I'm really surprised by Annie DeFranco, not in a bad way, just like that's an interesting pull I did not expect from any of our listeners.
Uh huh.
Kind of the same for Primus and Jane's, actually all of them really on this list of Dre's. Primus is an acquired taste, I guess is a good way to describe him.
I think that is probably putting it the mildest.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, they are not my thing, like at all. I will listen to that one song that's on the Tony Hawk soundtrack.
Jerry was a race car driver.
Yes, I will listen
Drove
to
so
that.
goddamn fast.
Um, Sometimes I even started the level over, just so I could get a new track. I mean, I guess I kind of get why people like Primus.
Primus is not really my thing. I think Les Claypool is probably too talented for his own good, and it comes out in weird ways. I
Yeah,
think that's true of a lot of people who are that talented. It comes out in ways that everybody else doesn't quite get, but somehow that person makes it work for
yeah.
them. Jane's Addiction, they have some stuff I like, but man, talk about a band that needs to do less heroin. That's just it, man. But still a solid. A lot of hits from them, and Annie DeFranco, I'm still really just surprised about. Again, not in a bad way, just like that's kind of there's like out of left field, and then there's somebody on a listening to a Geek Garage podcast naming Annie DeFranco. But that's cool.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have a lot of diversity in this list. It's that was one thing that I noticed when reading over the list, like in its entirety, was like there's a lot of diversity in here. Like I know that our target demo and the people that listen to the podcast are of our age, so millennials, a little bit of Gen Z, and a little bit of Gen X or Y. Y.
No,
No,
millennials
X.
are Gen Y.
Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so I was expecting a lot of like My Chemical Romance, Linkin Park stuff, like Newfound Glory. I was expecting all that, so it was nice to see a lot of mix up in here. But we do have one more name, and that's Gabriel Silva, and he listed Mothership by Dance Gavin Dance, who is one of my favorite bands of all time. Even though I just kind of started listening to them within the last like 5 years or so, they've been around for quite a while now. Um, they started up in the screamo era of like the mid to late 2000s and have underwent severe band drama and changes.
Yeah,
They
didn't their original singer like get caught? Got didn't he like get caught selling a fake laptop or something? I mean, that was
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Among
His
many other
name.
problems I've heard he had.
Yes. I can't speak to his character now because he might be, however you want to say it, reformed, quote unquote, or you know, be, evolved into a decent human being. But yes, back in this time frame, he was what people on the streets referred to as a giant piece of shit.
uh,
He
the
had.
the douche.
Yes, douche nozzle. And what you're referring to was Johnny Craigslist. The
That's right.
vocalist.
I remember
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So he was the clean vocalist of the band when the band first started, and his name was Johnny Craig, and he started this thing called Johnny Craigslist, and he was like selling or auctioning off like signed MacBooks, I think. And it turned out to be a scam of some sort, I believe. I don't know all the
Yeah.
details of it.
He was. I remember this pretty vividly because it was pretty big news on the MySpace. To date myself there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he was selling a MacBook, and then a bunch of people like sent him money for it, and then he just never sent a MacBook to anyone because probably he was buying drugs with that money.
That is, I think that's pretty safe to assume.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I've only been listening to Dance Gavin Dance for since the Mothership album, basically that Gabe listed. And I'm sorry, Gabe. I said Gabriel, and you go by Gabe. I apologize. You were just on the podcast like fucking 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Apology not
Um,
accepted. David, he hates you now.
yeah, probably. I am a huge douche nozzle. But anyways, yeah, I like I said, this band is just the history itself is interesting. Like I think they still have a couple of the original band members, but for the most part, the band it's like changed drastically. And you can the history of the band is pretty accurate on Wikipedia. So if you want to go read up on Wikipedia on their page, it's pretty interesting. But their the music the music sound that they have kind of settled into now that they've established like band members that aren't going to do drugs and then drop off the face of the planet.
Or
Um,
at least can have a handle on the amount of drugs they do.
right, exactly. Now that they have some consistency with all that and are able to keep band members around, their music has gotten better. So I think it's pretty popular when you talk about Dance Gavin Dance with fans. They'll all say that, or not all of them, but most of them will agree that their music has gotten a lot better, or it's at its best like now or within the last 4 or 5 years. But yeah, this is a solid album. So
David, you know a lot more about this group than I do. Is it like some other groups where they go through a lot of lineup changes, or particularly a lot of vocalist changes, where um, people like one era more than the other, or does it seem pretty uniform that most people are like, yeah, the newer stuff is better?
yeah, so I'd say it's a little bit of both, actually. I I don't think I personally have ran into anyone that has said like, "Oh yeah, I prefer like the older stuff, like from the Johnny Craig era, or from the other like clean vocalist eras." John Mess, the screamer, he's the only consistent vocalist from the band. I think he might have left temporarily at one point in time, but anyways, yeah. So like I said, it's kind of yes and no. Like I think for the most part, like I said a few minutes ago, most people will agree that they've really hit their stride within the last 5 or 6 years or so. Now that they have like a solid foundation to kind of evolve on, and like the funny thing about the band is that they tell their fans like, okay, with this next album, we're getting like really fucking weird, and I think they say it as like a shock factor to try and like not drive people away, obviously, but to kind of get people ready. But like fans have come to realize that the band just continuously puts out like weirder and weirder music. So like they're already expecting that level of weird. So
A
there's
feature,
nothing
not a bug, that kind of thing.
yeah, there's nothing left to do but enjoy it when that music comes out. And so I've been waiting for them to put out like a lackluster album since Mothership. I'm like, all right, like they can't all be good. And so far, I really haven't like their new album Afterburner just came out and it's fucking great. Like track number 3, I forget the name of it, but all the clean vocals are sung completely in Spanish. I'm not, and Ted, I think I was talking to you about this song a couple weeks ago when the album first came out, but I'm not sure if I think Will Swan, the lead guitarist, he might have some Spanish descent in him, and there might be with a few of the other band members. So I'm not exactly sure what the driving force was for doing this song almost completely in Spanish, but it's pretty fucking cool. So yeah, I definitely suggest like if you're into like alternative rock and a little bit of like hardcore and the term mathcore isn't thrown around
The
in my
genre
opinion.
elitist in me wants to come out and correct you, but uh,
Okay,
I will abate it and
no,
say
I mean
simply,
I'm curious as to what you have to say. Is that not a is mathcore not a thing? I was told it was a
mathcore is a
thing.
thing, but they're not a mathcore band.
No,
Not
okay.
every band that plays in a time other than 4/4 is a mathcore band.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
thus ends the
Well,
lesson.
okay. Well, I guess consider me schooled. They play just a lot of really complicated guitar licks. Um, so we'll just leave it at that. Anyway, we blabbered on for about Dance Gavin Dance for too long now.
Now that we've gone through all the important people, the listeners, and listed off what they chose for the poll, we're going to name off ours. And I know. I was just giving everybody a more or less good natured hard time about picking more than one, and I'm going to do the same thing. But you know what? It's our podcast, so deal with it.
Yeah, you
I'm just going
you
to,
chose to listen to us.
yes, and regret it. I'm just going to name off all these. We don't have to spend a lot of time on them because I doubt that many. First of all, I doubt David's ever heard of them, and I kind of also doubt some of our listeners have either. But that's not. I don't say that in a pretentious way. Just that I like really heavy music that not everybody else even can stand. So I'll just try and name off a couple. The first is Botches. We Are the Romans. This record came out in like 2000 and fucking knocks 20 years later. It rules. If you're into metalcore at all, basically all of your favorite metalcore bands ripped off Bosch.
What? Wait, which one is the band name?
Botch.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I was. Yeah, sorry.
I'm pretty sure isn't there a band called like We Are the Romans or
The,
Recame as
we came as
yeah, we
Romans.
came as
Yeah,
Romans, right? Yeah.
yeah.
See, they ripped off Botch too from the name. Moving right along. I've literally never heard that band. I have no idea what they sound like.
They probably that I have heard what they sound like, and I can almost guarantee you without hearing Botch that they sound nothing like that.
Okay, well, I feel like
Mo-
I'm going to count it anyway.
right, moving right along.
Next, I have the Gaslight Anthems 59 sound. I struggled
Okay,
really hard between this and American Slang, but I really love those two albums. I listen to them like once a week still each,
nice.
and they both rock. The Hold Steady, Boys and Girls in America, that same kind of rock and roll sound as the Gaslight Anthem, which just kind of speaks to the nostalgic person in me. Probably my favorite record of all time, Massive Attack's Mezzanine. The defining trip hop album for me, and I listen to it literally like every 2 days. Uh, just two more. Sleep's Dope Smoker, 63-minute doom metal song about weed priests. Um, it's insane and I love it. And then the Wu Tang 36 Chamber, which is pushing 30 and still is, nastier than your favorite hip hop album. This is really tough for me because there's so many like music. I'm an even bigger music snob than I am movie snob, if you if you will believe that. Um, so it was really hard for me. Like there were so many groups or artists that I wanted to name, but I couldn't pick one album. I was
Right.
like for the Rolling Stones, there were like 4 albums I wanted to put on there, and I was like, nope, can't do it. Narrowed down to one. Same for Springsteen, Sinatra. There's about 10,000 jazz records that I like a lot. Outcast, Hatebreed, duh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just tough to pick like one record when I can literally just like go into my iTunes, because I still use iTunes, because to me it's still 2005, and just like go to the artist and hit play, and that's all I'll do that day is just listen to that discography.
Right.
But it's tough for me to just pick a single album, even of the groups that I listed. Like I have multiple albums from all those groups and listen to multiple albums from all those groups.
No, this was very difficult for me as well. And my list, which is, I'll apologize in advance, it is also extensive. So I'm just going to rattle them off and not really spend too much time on them. Uh, yeah, I wouldn't call myself a music snob because I like almost all genres of music. Like if you take like all genres, um, and subtract Christian, country, and Enya. You
Not a
have
genre.
that's why it's funny or not funny, depending on if you did not laugh. But if you subtract those three things, then you basically have the genres of music that I listen to. Now I do listen to old school country, like back when it was fucking Willie Nelson and
Yeah,
Hank
yeah,
Williams.
like outlaw country. I fucks with that.
Right. Yeah. Like when it was good. And not talking about jeans and cold beer and pickup trucks and shit like that. Anyways, okay, so my list goes something like Say It Like You Mean It by The Starting Line, Let It Enfold You by Census Fail. Take this Sorry, we had a little bit that
We got a
we
little bit of a
and
crack up there.
yeah, we cut it out and you can hear
Pull up
it
blooper
at
reel. We're gonna keep
uh,
this moving along.
yeah. Listen to the blooper reel at the very end. Take This to Your Grave by Fall Out Boy. American Idiot and 21st Century Breakdown by Green Day. California, and basically all other albums by Blink 182. Sticks and Stones and Self Titled by Newfound Glory. Um, Essentially everything that Andrew McMahon has ever done. He's one of my favorite musicians of all time, possibly like my favorite musician. But for those unfamiliar, his first band was Something Corporate, and my favorite albums from that were Leaving Through the Window and North. His second band was Jack's Mannequin. My favorite was Everything in Transit. That was their first album at Jack's Mannequin, and actually just celebrated its 15th anniversary this month, I believe. So congratulations to Andrew for the anniversary on that album. And then basically all albums under his newest, I guess, moniker. Or, he's basically been solo for the last couple albums, but he still goes by Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness. The first was self-titled, second was Zombies on Broadway, and the third and recent, which came out I think last year or 2018, was Upside Down Flowers. And then I talked quite a bit about Dance Gavin Dance, so I'll spare you, but I'll just put down Mothership, because this was the album that got me into the band. And despite how great Afterburner is and all the other albums before and after Mothership, I will say that Mothership is the one that slaps the hardest for me. So, boom, that is my list.
All right.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. That is our list that you did not ask for, but yet still received. And if you made it this far, congratulations. And like always, I'm sorry.
Yes, we are deeply, deeply sorry.
We're professionals. You're fired. Yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone that participated in this poll. It was a fun one for me because, and Ted, despite the fact that he's not on Facebook, um, music is a huge part of my life. I wouldn't call myself a musician, even though I do play guitar. I'm more of an appreciator, if that's a word, or a connoisseur of music. I love listening to music, and I know Ted will say the same about himself, or has said the same. And this was just a really fun poll to do because it mixes up the content with the polls that from our typical fare, which is usually like video games or comic books or movies. So Ted, I don't know how you felt, but this was a fun change up from our usual stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's good to reach out and remember that people have hobbies or interests that aren't just like about people that wear tights and fight crime.
Right. Yeah, and I mean it. To if you're going to try and make an argument, I think music is you kind of talked about this earlier. It's so deeply ingrained in our psyche and just our everyday life. Like, there's not too many people out there that will straight up say like, "Oh yeah, I don't listen to music," or "I don't like music." Although music, you might not be able to draw a straight parallel line between it and geek and nerd culture, it's still something that we all do and we all appreciate. So I feel like it still has its place within the realm of shit we talk about on the podcast. So yeah, I'm glad whenever we can do these episodes, the music related ones. So yeah. But Ted, like always, thanks for joining me and being my trusty sidekick in this grand adventure we call a shit podcast.
Yeah, whatever. This ain't even my whole night.
But it is though, right?
Yeah, I'm tired. I woke up at like 4:30. I'm going to bed.
Dude, yeah, well, fuck that. I did not wake up at 4:30, but I feel you. So yeah, we'll sign off this bitch. Catch us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all the other podcast apps. Subscribe if you haven't already, please and thank you. And as always, be kind, stay geeky, and eat lots of cheesecake. Bye-bye. Starting lines, say it like you mean it. Senses fails. Let it unfold you. Fall Out Boys, take this to your grave.
David.
Green. What?
It's enfold, not unfold.
What did I say?
You said unfold. Like you unfold a sheet.
All right, I'm going to look this up.
It's infold with an E.
Motherfucker!
I'm sorry,
I've been lied to for 16 goddamn years! My life is a lie! How the hell did I not fucking know this?
Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking piss.
Well, I think we just found our blooper reel. Oh my god! What the fuck, man?
At first I thought I was just being a dick and a stickler and correcting you, but the fact that you literally thought it was so
I'm gonna kill myself.
Ooh.
All right. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna start this over.